Hey everybody, this is Rich and you're with Beekeeping with Rich. So a few videos back I showed you a new bee vac I made because my old bee vac was for 10 frame and I hadn't bothered to change it since I became an 8 frame beekeeper, so I made a new 8 frame bushkill style bee vac where you have a dedicated bottom piece, a regular super, and then a dedicated top piece that so that you can literally take the super and pop it over onto a box. But I decided I needed a battery operated BVAC because this year particularly every swarm that I've gotten called to have been itty bitty tiny swarms. They haven't been anything big. And while yeah, I can make my big BVAC into a battery operated BVAC by the simple technique of taking an inverter with alligator clips on it, clipping them to the poles of the battery in the truck and run an extension cord, yeah, your plug-in BVAC becomes battery operated that way. It's a lot of hassle and a lot of bulk and everything. Easier, I guess, than dragging a generator along with you, which I've been known to do. But I just decided, you know what? I want something small and convenient because well, I haven't been finding really big swarms this year so far. So I decided after a little bit of scanning around online, I was thinking about different ways to do this, looking at the handheld vacs that get cannibalized and all this other stuff. And then I decided, you know what, let me just look at what Ryobi has in the way of small battery operated vacuums because I'm most definitely a Ryobi 100 Plus fan. I have many tools that use this big 4 amp hour battery. Uh, and lo and behold, Ryobi makes, or made, maybe the best term, you may act on this quickly, a 3-gallon shop vac that is battery operated. They're apparently starting to get a little hard to find. Amazon didn't have them at all. I had to purchase this one off of eBay because everybody has now gone to the 6-gallon size. So I want you to keep something in mind. When you're using a BVAC, of course, you have to spill a lot of the power of the BVAC by using some sort of venting system like this to adjust it. Saw a lot of these small bucket ones. People were actually drilling dedicated holes and then going back and putting tape over them and such. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of work. So balance what you're doing. This is a 3-gallon vac. This is not a 5-gallon bucket. This is a 7-gallon bucket. It's used for chlorinating tablets. My next door neighbor happens to be a pool guy, and so it's like, hey Mike, I need a bucket. Next time you got an empty one, toss it over in the yard. And he does, and boom, we get them. And the nice thing about them is they come with screw-on lids. This BVAC from, okay, I'm going to go out and make a VVAC to finished product was less than 2 hours just using what was on hand. Could I make a slightly better one with other stuff? Yeah, I probably could, and I'll point a couple little things out to you along the line. But the most important thing is, remember, full power 3-gallon equals a lot less power in a 7-gallon or a 5-gallon, either one. The vacuum I'm about to make is actually adapted from one that just uses a regular Home Depot bucket head. That's a lot of power and you need to spill a lot more energy out of there. But if you want to make this same vacuum using a bucket head, you can with no trouble. But I don't like single-use dedicated things. A nice compact little shop vac of this nature for cleaning the cars, it's not much good for, shop use. I have bigger ones for that, but nice little one. Already did a better job cleaning my wife's car than the bigger one does because it has a smaller intake. So at any rate, keep in mind that you've got your vacuum here, you've got whatever the volume in here is, and that your hose is also part of your volume. If you're using a 1-inch hose, a 2-inch hose, a 4-inch hose, if you're using a 4-foot long hose, a 6-foot or an 8-foot long hose, all of that is part of your your vacuum calculation. And so the idea of drilling holes in the bucket really isn't a good one, because that doesn't allow for a lot of versatility. Much better to have a flexible, movable control like this. Now that we've gotten the physics out of the way, let's just get to this real simple build. So you have a bucket to have bees that you're going to catch your bees in. At the bottom of the bucket, you drill a hole that's appropriate for whatever hose size you're going to use. Do you have to do any of this? No. I tested this by drilling a hole here, sticking this in there, and sticking the other hose up here. Yep, worked fine. And you don't really need to go get a EM or a PVC fitting if you don't want to. One of the pains in the butt is that these days you can't seem to get PVC fittings for anything except Schedule 40 pipe, and these hoses don't fit nicely in them. So here's a piece of Schedule 220 thin wall pipe inserted into that, so that it's a decent fit for this, because otherwise it's too loose. You'd have to wrap a bunch of tape on it, like the other end is done for other controls. That tape is actually so that I can extend this using pool hose pieces if I wanted to. In the top, do you have to turn it to the side? No, you could have another one just like this sticking straight up, but that does kind of kink your hose a lot more. It's a lot less pressure if you do it that way. So that's why I use an a PVC coupling attached in there, because it works the stresses out. You're less likely to be damaging anything here, or crack or stressing anything up here. For a control, you drill another hole. I love using dense foam as my seal here, because it sucks down and holds really tight, and it's nice and flexible otherwise. All you need is a small bolt, a washer, and boop, you're good to go there. The most important part of this bucket is this piece right here. I'll turn this so it can be seen. It just drops in right there. You make a good snug fit. You calculate it so it's a few inches down, because it's still the same volume. You just need to clear anything you might do up here. So it can be pretty high up. I have more than 5 full gallons in this bucket, the way this is set up. I don't set it up so that this jams down in wedges, because, okay, fine, I saw designs where they just shove this down in there, but you know what? If later on this gets tipped on a side, something like this can turn sideways, and your whole job can go sideways. So I like to just make it a comfortable fit, one I don't have to fight with to get in or out. But as you can see, there is not even a 1/16 of an inch anywhere all the way around on that. That only took a couple of minutes with a sander to accomplish when I first shoved it in. And like, oh, it's a little out on this side, oh, it's a little much on this side, little tiny bit of sanding. It was easy to do. How you choose to do your screen, what you choose to use for screen. This is a piece of window screen. It's good enough. For a little reinforcement along with the staples in here, which you expect to see, what you don't really see because it dries clear, is that I used some Titebond 2 glue. I stapled this on, then I just ran Titebond 2 glue all the way around and up the middle and mashed it in so that there's a nice secure distribution of any pressure here. You could use 1/8 inch hardware cloth if you wanted. Don't see why you'd want to go to that expense. You could try doing something that some people did, where you had nothing in the middle and 2 little handles over here. It doesn't matter, because the vacuum is going to be here either way, and this is plenty of air space for the bees to breathe when you're done with the job. Either way, nice and comfortable. Just make a little handle. Get a metal handle if you prefer. I'm cheap. I had scrap. I made a handle like this. 4 screws on the 4 corners. I reached in there afterwards and immediately cut myself. So it's like, oh, okay. So this hot glue on here isn't to hold anything in place. This hot glue is to protect the sharp my hands from the sharp points on these. A better way to do this would be to go out and get 4 small bolts and 4 dome-headed nuts, finish nuts, put it through here and use a dome-headed finish nut. But like I said, I just went out to make this up and was just used what was on hand and what was convenient. And that's what I chose. There are better options if you want to use them for that. Now, pardon me? What's inside? Well, that's what we're getting to next, and that's where we can really have some fun. If you remember my other video, I like using this dense cell foam. I used it in my first shop vac, or my first bee vac. I use it in my second bee vac. I have no dead bees. Now, it replaces a ramp type interior on those boxes and flows up like this. Whether this will actually work or not, I don't know. Haven't had a chance to try it yet. I think it will work just fine. I merely cut the end of this equivalent to the curve there, stuck it in, went, okay, I need to trim off a little bit. So I trimmed a little bit off each side so that I can push this in, push it down. Do you really need that little piece there? No, you could leave it like that. It wouldn't be a big problem. I just decided to go ahead and make a little hook right there. And the bees are going to come in and it's going to give them a soft surface to impact over here. If you don't like that idea, if this doesn't work for me, the next thing I'm going to do, if this doesn't work, is drill a hole over here, drill a hole over here, small hole. I'm going to run a piece of wire through there. Use a little bit of hot glue to seal the holes there. And I'm going to either drape a piece of cloth. Mind you, this would give you a little piece of wire going from here to here. And I will either drape a piece of cloth over that so that they're just hitting that in the back. If I tip it forward, it's not going to look right. So they're just hitting that in the back, and it also gives them a place to climb up. Oh, by the way, it's something that won't show on camera, of course, but a piece of sandpaper to kind of lightly roughen up the inside of this so the bees can hang on the sides more easily, since this isn't something that you can realistically put frames in like you can on the box type back. So the bees can distribute themselves out a little bit. As I say, I think this is going to work fine. If it doesn't, a rag like this, or a piece of a yoga mat like this can also be used in here suspended. If instead of a little hook like this, which you can use when you have something this firm, if you want to put a clip in there, and by that I just mean, a paper clip. I don't know what the exact term for them is. The chip clip, whatever. You can put a little clip like that and anchor it there, and you can use it to hang things off of. And a lot of people don't even do any of that. They just have it straight out and let the bees, hopefully slow down before they get to the back. I've just found so far that this has worked fine for me with other styles, and I'm going to test that style first. But if it doesn't work, all is not lost. There are other options. I really think that a piece of wire across here with a piece of terry cloth hung from it is an excellent option. So we've already gone over this. Did I actually need to put a piece of screen there? No, I didn't, because we already had this. I mean, this can actually not even be on there. The reason I like these 7-gallon ones, if you happen to be able to talk to a guy at your pool store and they've got some empty ones in the trash, is that these have a great screw down lid on them. There it is. Boop. Locks in beautifully. And as long as you can get your fingers in this little red spot, they come off easily. Otherwise, you're going to be using a snap-on lid, and there's going to be struggle and such involved if you're just using a 5-gallon bucket from Walmart or Home Depot or something. But are you going to show us how it works? I'm going to show you how it works. So with very little modification or adjustment, you now have a battery operated vac you can walk out anywhere with. And when you're not using it for that, you can use it for something else. Full on. Perfect vacuum for bees, right there. I cannot hear you, dear.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you either.
Okay. Well, I was to say perfect vacuum level for bees.
You should just pull at your cheek.
Yeah. I mean, since this is 3 gallon, it just, well, if anybody hasn't used the bee vac, you should just have a gentle tug on your cheek. And beyond that, I mean, you just start trying to vacuum bees, and if they're hanging on and not going in, you need to close this up a little bit more. But definitely, if this thing is all the way closed, and that is just a 1-inch hole right there, definitely if this is all the way closed, you've got more than enough power to pull bees into it. You don't want more power than you absolutely need, because they have to go tumbling down this hose. And I prefer a much larger volume hose, 2.5 inch, which is what I use on my other vacuums. I will have to make a decision based on whether I injure bees or not, as to whether or not I need to remodify this for a larger size hole. Now, the only thing I have not done so far, I had done it, but it didn't work. I took a PVC cap that was fitted for the Schedule 40, drilled a whole bunch of holes in it, and that was going to be my plug. But when I slid this in there so that everything worked right, that became not an option. So for the moment, I would just be sticking a piece of cloth in there, or cord, cloth, whatever. But in the long term, I'm going to want to have a ventilated plug in there of some sort. I will probably end up getting a PVC fitting like this, just a straight coupling, and drilling out. Well, I will get this size again, this one, but the next size up, so that I can just put it over it, and I'll just drill another series of holes in it. The plug I had wasn't a cap. The plug I had was an interior plug.
Keep going, please.
Sorry, a squirrel just ran across the top of everything here. So I'll just get a cap, and I'll just drill a series of holes in that to fit it on there, so that when the bee vac is not in operation, there will be ventilation down here. And of course, we will have taken the top off so that the ventilation is on the inside there. So there we go. Really easy bee vac. Now, this is a little on the expensive side. If you don't already have a shop vac or some sort, then this is a great investment. Whether you can justify the investment just for the occasional use as a shop vac, that's up to you to decide. You can, if you're already a user of the 100 plus Ryobi Plus system, you can just buy the body of the actual tool itself without the battery or a charger, and they're running that way between $67 and $80, depending upon where you're getting them. In this instance, I went ahead and spent $119, got an extra charger and got an extra battery, because the difference in price was less than the cost of buying an extra battery. So basically, hey, if I get all 3 at once, I'm getting the charger for free. So everybody has to make your own calculations on where your cost point is, but this is cheap and easy, and the only reason for this is it's battery operated. But there you go. I now have a nice, easy, battery operated bee vac that I can take out on the job anywhere. This has been Beekeeping with Rich. Be sure to like and subscribe.